We knew that to help Lady Koi Koi, we needed to learn more about her past. We decided to explore the school archives, hoping to find more information. The archives were located in a small, dusty room at the back of the school library. We managed to get a key from the matron, who reluctantly agreed to let us access the archives. The room was filled with old records, newspapers, and dusty books. We started going through the files, looking for anything related to Lady Koi Koi or the girl from the diaries. After hours of searching, we found an old file with a name that matched the girl from the diaries. Her name was Amina, and she had been a student at St. Grace's many years ago. The file contained some basic information about her, but it was mostly blank. We discovered a newspaper article about Amina's disappearance. It said she had gone missing under mysterious circumstances and was never found. The article mentioned that she had been troubled and had often complained about feeling washed. We decided to talk to some of the older staff members to see if they knew anything about Amina. One teacher, who had been at the school for a long time, remembered Amina. She told us that Amina was a quiet, shy girl who had been very unhappy. The teacher said that Amina had been seen wandering the halls late at night. Some students had reported strange things happening around her. It seemed like Amina had been troubled by something even before she disappeared. While going through more old records, we found some photographs of Amina. In the photos, she looked sad and alone. There were also pictures of the school grounds from that time. We noticed that some of the buildings had changed, and the area where the forbidden room was located had once been a garden. We wondered if the changes in the school might be connected to Amina's story. The garden where she had spent time might have been important to her. We decided to visit the area and see if we could find any clues. The area where the garden used to be was now a storage space. We carefully explored the area and found some old garden tools and broken furniture. Among the items, we discovered a small, hidden compartment in the wall. Inside the compartment, we found an old journal and a few personal items. The journal looked very old and was filled with writings and drawings. It seemed to belong to Amina. We hoped that this journal would give us more insight into her life and her feelings. We took the journal to our room and started reading it carefully. Amina's writings revealed that she had been very unhappy at school. She felt isolated and was often frightened by strange occurrences. She had written about hearing whispers and seeing shadowy figures, much like what we were experiencing. In one entry, Amina described a particularly frightening experience. She had seen a ghostly figure in the mirror, which matched the descriptions we had heard about Lady Koi Koi. Amina's fear and sadness were evident in her words. In one of the last entries, Amina wrote about a secret she had discovered. She mentioned something about a hidden place where she felt safe. The entry was unclear and seemed to be written in a hurry. It suggested that Amina had found a spot where she thought she could find peace. We tried to make sense of the message. It seemed like Amina had been searching for something or someone in the school. We decided to look for any hidden places or clues that might lead us to her safe spot. Our search led us to a part of the school that was rarely used. We found a small, hidden door behind some old furniture. The door was old and rusty, but it looked like it hadn't been used in years. We managed to open the door and found a narrow, dark passage leading underground. The passage seemed to go beneath the school grounds. We felt a mix of excitement and fear as we decided to explore it, hoping it might lead us to something important. At the end of the passage, we found a small, hidden room. It was dusty and filled with old, forgotten items. In the center of the room was a small, wooden chest. We opened the chest carefully and found several personal items, including some of Amina's belongings and a few more journals. One of the journals was different from the others. It contained detailed drawings of the school grounds and notes about a special spot in the garden. It seemed like Amina had been trying to find something significant. Among the items, we found a letter addressed to someone named Kofi. The letter talked about a place where Amina felt she could finally be at peace. It mentioned a specific location in the garden and asked Kofi to come and meet her there. We realized that this place might be where Amina had spent her last days. We decided to go to the garden area and search for the spot Amina had mentioned in her letter. We hoped that finding this place might help us understand what happened to her and how to help her spirit find peace. Armed with the letter and the details from Amina's journals, we went to the old garden area. It was overgrown and neglected, but we were determined to find the special spot mentioned in the letter. We split up to cover more ground, carefully examining every part of the garden. The garden was full of weeds and tangled vines. We searched under old bushes and behind fallen branches. The letter mentioned a specific landmark, a large, twisted tree. We focused our search around this tree, hoping it would lead us to something significant. After some searching, we found the large, twisted tree described in the letter. It was ancient and had a gnarled trunk. We examined the area around the tree and noticed that the ground seemed disturbed, like it had been recently moved. We dug around the base of the tree, our hands getting dirty as we walked. Our excitement grew as we unearthed a small, wooden box buried in the soil. It looked old and weathered but intact. We carefully brushed off the dirt and opened it. Inside the box, we found several items, Amina's personal belongings, including a locket, some old letters, and a small, worn-out diary. The diary looked different from the others we had found. It was smaller and more personal. We took the items back to our room and started going through them. The locket had a photo of Amina and someone who looked like a young man. The letters were addressed to Kofi, the same name from the letter we had found earlier. We read through the letters, which revealed a deep and emotional story. They were love letters from Amina to Kofi, who was a friend and someone she cared deeply about. The letters spoke of Amina's loneliness and her fears. She wrote about how she felt trapped and how she had hoped Kofi would help her escape. One letter mentioned a plan to meet Kofi in the garden to discuss their future. It was clear that Amina had been looking forward to this meeting and had hoped it would change her life. We examined the locket more closely and discovered a small inscription inside. It read, "Forever in my heart." The locket seemed to hold deep sentimental value for Amina. We wondered if it was meant as a gift for Kofi or if it was a reminder of their bond. We felt a growing sense of sympathy for Amina. It was clear that she had been very lonely and had felt betrayed by the people around her. We knew we needed to understand more about Kofi and what had happened to him. We went back to the archives to find any information about Kofi. It took some time, but we eventually found records about him. Kofi was a former student who had left the school around the same time as Amina's disappearance. We discovered that Kofi had moved away and had started a new life. He had passed away many years ago. We couldn't find much more about his later life, but it was clear that he had not been able to help Amina as she had hoped. We returned to the garden and sat by the twisted tree, reflecting on what we had learned. It was clear that Amina had been deeply hurt and had felt abandoned. Her spirit was restless, and the disturbances at the school seemed to be her way of reaching out. We decided to hold a small ceremony at the garden to honor Amina and her memory. We placed her belongings back in the box and buried it near the twisted tree. We hoped that this gesture might help bring some peace to her spirit. We talked to the matron about what we had discovered. She listened carefully and seemed moved by Amina's story. The matron promised to help us with a formal ceremony to honor Amina and to make sure her story was remembered. She arranged for a small memorial service at the school. We invited students and staff to attend and learn about Amina's story. It was an emotional event, and many people were touched by the story of the troubled girl who had once been a part of the school. After the ceremony, the disturbances at the school seemed to lessen. The whispers and strange noises became less frequent. It felt like Amina's spirit was finally finding some peace. The atmosphere at the school became calmer, and the fear we had felt began to fade. We continued to be respectful and mindful of the school's history. The memorial service had brought closure, and we hoped it had helped Amina find the peace she had been seeking. As time passed, we felt that the spirit of Lady Koi Koi, or Amina, had finally found peace. We continued to remember her story and to honor her memory. The garden, once a place of fear, became a symbol of hope and reconciliation. We knew that the experiences we had gone through had taught us valuable lessons about empathy and respect. We were grateful for the chance to help Amina and to learn from her story. It was a chapter in our lives we would never forget.